In this video for section 2.1, we're going to talk about frequency histograms, or normally we just refer to them as histograms. They are a graph of the frequency distribution. Along the x-axis we have the classes or ranges, and the y-axis shows the frequency or relative frequency for each. Histograms are only used for quantitative data. If we have qualitative data, then we use what's called a bar chart, which is very similar but a little bit different. Now, we're going to make histograms in Minitab a little bit later on in the course, so don't worry too much about the Excel instructions in the textbook for making histograms. One thing that I do want to talk about are the three types of information that you can get from looking at a histogram. The first is the center, or where the middle of the data is. Looking at figure 2.2, I see three histograms with three different centers. And often we will have data that has this kind of shape to the histogram, which we call like a bell shape, and the center is going to be in the middle, and it's also going to be where the highest part of the histogram is, and that is the most frequent category or class. So for example, looking at this histogram B, this green one, we see that the peak or the center is around 300. That's the middle of the data set. Another thing that we can see in a histogram is called the spread or the variation. And we're going to talk more about variation later on in the course, but basically the data could be more clustered around the center, so as we see in this histogram B, or it could be more spread out. As we see in histogram C, the data is more spread out. Histogram A is about in between B and C. The third thing that we can look at when we're looking at histograms is the shape. So we could have a flat histogram where all the bars are roughly the same height. It could be weighted to one side or the other. So the peak doesn't have to be in the middle. We might have a peak on one side and then the shape of the histogram might just tail off. Or it could be balanced like this one, or bell-shaped, which is also what this green one here looks like, a little bit like a bell shape. So those are some things to keep in mind about histograms, and we're going to be talking more about those things later on in the course.